Hi Year 10s, this is a Year 10 assembly on mock exam information, so hopefully by the end of this you'll be a bit more aware about what's going to happen. The presentation is also going to be uploaded on the website just so that parents at home or carers can actually see the information too. So the mock exams are going to go between Wednesday the 22nd of June all the way up to the 30th of June the following week. And what we'd like to do in this session is just so you are aware of how you revise and how best to support yourself during the exam period, exam regulations and requirements, and the arrangements that are going to be in school for during that mock exam period for you.
So what should you be doing now to prepare? I'm hoping you're asking yourself that question. The first thing, the most important thing, is that you're here and in school. So there's a very strong correlation between people who attend school regularly and their exam results. And during those lessons running up to your exams in the next couple of weeks, is all going to be all about preparing you for those exams. So the experts are your teachers, and they're going to help you to prepare. So please be here. The next thing is ensuring that homework is still complete. So homework will be revision based, but please don't fall into that trap of thinking, oh, I just need to revise, I'm not going to do that specific work that the teacher has set for me. Again, they're the expert, they know what will help you to revise, and what we're going to look at next, obviously, is what we mean by revision, and your teachers understand that. So be at school, make sure homework is complete, and then we need to start thinking about timetabling. So when you're thinking about your time, obviously revision goes into that, but we also need to consider sleep, your health, and relaxing as well, because these are the things that are going to help your brain to function and therefore be able to revise and learn effectively. And without that, there's no point at all. So you have to consider your mental health in all of this. And as we said, we're going to send this out, so you'll have these links. But there are lots of resources out there to access if you're feeling at all anxious about exams, because it is normal to feel a level of anxiety and nervousness about exams. They're a performance art, if you want, because you've got to go and perform within that time limit. So we all feel nervous about it. So there's lots of resources and help you can get. And also remember, talk to your tutors, talk to your house heads. There's lots of people to help you in school. But the most important thing is this practice of the exams will help you to feel less nervous then about your real exams next year. So that's one of the biggest reasons that we do this. So back to timetabling then. You will get the exam timetable then, so you can look at then what you're going to be doing, and that's going to help you to put together then an idea of a revision timetable as well. This is just an example. People work in very different ways, but it's about trying to give all of your subjects time, and then again looking at that timetable, the ones that you've got the nearest, you'll need to give a little bit more time to start with. The ones that you've got last, then you can drop the subjects you've done, and then put in more time to those subjects that come in last. If you can see on here then, short spells of each subject, but short and focused is better than hours and hours and hours poring over something and not really knowing what you're doing. So make it short and make it focused. And that's what we're going to kind of look at next then, is what you're going to actually do in that time. First thing is no distractions. That means putting your phone away, different room. Again, you can then be more effective in a shorter amount of time, and then you can go, your carrot at the end of it can be your phone at the end of it. So put all those devices away, make sure all your notifications are switched off. And what are you going to do? So there's lots of research now about what helps us to learn and what makes effective revision, if you will. So right at the top there, we've got things like practice testing and practice exams. So you've got to self-test, work out what you don't know and learn that. We need to space that practice as well. So that means you're not doing 2 days solid of geography, 2 days solid of maths, etc. You're spacing it over time, because that's how we're going to learn. And I'll come on to that next. Look down at the bottom, and we see people doing these things all the time, and they have very low utility. They don't work. So rereading, sitting, reading notes over and over again, highlighting things and things like that. So we know that these things actually don't work. Keyword mnemonics, really, they have very limited use. So really take on this research and think about what it is you're doing. So we're going for not just a one-off session. It's got to be repeated over time so that sticks. Learning is the residue of thought, so it means we have to also think hard about something, because otherwise we're going to forget it. So if you have a look, when you've learned something, so that means maybe in class somebody has taught you something, actually a day later you're going to have forgotten 70% of it. That's a normal thing that happens. And then it's only when we review it and keep coming back to it that eventually it goes into our long-term memory, and that's when it is learnt. So we can't generally learn something on a one-off session. So we need to keep going back to it, which then, think about that timetabling of your study. It's got to be spread over time. So how are you going to do that then? So we want something that's not a one-off session. We want to practice on focus. We want to focus on elaborative interrogation and explanation as well. So really testing ourselves. It could be something like this, which is a review sheet. This is something from geography, which you may have seen. So if you look, it's very much based into question and answer form. Remember that idea of testing yourself. So could you then, once you've filled in your review sheet, can you cover up the answers and test yourself and still know the answers? Could be recall and review activities. So taking keywords from topics and then telling somebody else the story of it, basically, and explaining it, re-explaining it. Could be mind maps. So again, mapping out all those key terms and ideas. Or it could be flashcards as well. But again, these are often used wrongly with little effect. So we have to remember a good flashcard is going to help you test yourself. So you might have a question on one side and an answer on the other. You might have a key word on one side, you might have a definition on the other side. There's also something called the likeness system, which you can just Google, loads of YouTube videos about this. And it gives you a system of testing so that you end up testing yourselves and spending longer on the things that you don't know. Otherwise, our brain tends to like to do the things that we do know because our brains are quite lazy. So this is a really good system to use. Make those flashcards now. You're still going to have them for next year. Think about how we learn as well then, spaced over time. It's going to help you to put things into your long-term memory, ready for your real GCSEs next year. So all worth it. So just to recap then, be here, making sure we're doing our homework, sleeping, keeping a routine as well, diet, exercise, thinking about your mental well-being, and reviewing and practicing as well. So good luck year 10 with your exams. I'm sure you're all going to be amazing. This student is going to carry on and talking about exam regulations, because this practice really is about understanding how real exams work.
Yes, you'll be obviously aware that the current year 11s are doing their exams at the moment, and you will have seen a lot more having to be quiet down the corridors, etc. There are lots and lots of exam rules that we have to abide by. So we go by JCQ regulations. This is not something that we have set up as a school. This is something that is set up by that outside council. So I'm going to go for a few of them just so that you are aware, and again, so that you can practice these before you get into your year 11 real exams. So candidates you all will have to read and have to comply by each and every single one of the rules that we will go through. Any breach of these regulations could result in a disqualification. So again, it's about practicing those rules. Year 11s are well prepared in the way in which exams are conducted, and that's where we want you to be also. So we deliver the exams all the way from year 7. So you may have seen these slightly, but obviously with COVID, etc., you may not have been put in these conditions. So it's important that we address these now. Any questions to do with exams as well, it's important that you speak to Ms. Harris at your earliest opportunity, just so that you fully understand, or you address any errors or misconceptions that you've got about the idea of the exams. So key reminders that you will need to do. So rules when you go into mock exams: you cannot communicate or distract any other candidate. You cannot be involved in any unfair or dishonest practice. You cannot take any prohibited items into the exam. So for example, the revision notes that you've been making the week before, whatever, anything scribbled on your hands or arms, because that could be identified as having that information. Even if it's something like your bus time or something like that, you cannot have things put on there. It also includes any web-enabled devices. So, for example, things like mobile phones, etc., they cannot go in. On that, you cannot bring any form of watch into the exam. Obviously now where you've got things like Apple Watches, etc., they can be linked up to the internet. So all watches have been banned for exam rooms. You will have a clock on the wall in that exam room, though, so you can keep an eye on, kind of that time limit and when you need to be on certain questions, etc. If a phone is found on you, and this will be we'll be doing this during the mock exam period as well as for when obviously you get into year 11s, if there's no evidence of it being used, the minimum sanction that can be done is you would lose the marks from that paper or that unit that you're currently doing. If it's found that you're actually using it in the exam as well as obviously being found with it, you're actually doing something with it and looking up something, then you could be disqualified from all of the qualifications in that series. Key reminders: you can't just finish your exam when you want to and then get up and leave out the room. You have to finish at the exact time. So it may mean that you're obviously sat there waiting. Anything like that, we would advise that you look back through those exams, reread the questions, go through them, check that you've answered them correctly, check that you've given enough points for the points that are awarded, dependent obviously on the exam paper that you're doing. Also, you have to bring in all the equipment for that exam. We won't be able to lend because it's quite limited. So, for example, like scientific calculators, you will need to bring your own one. There is an example of a good scientific calculator on there if you so wish to get that one. So, exam day checklist, and this will be the same for your real exams as well and for your mock exams. So, Miss Callan obviously went through about eating well, aiming for the right amount of sleep a night so that you're ready, but also checking things like your travel arrangements for the morning, making sure that you know that you'll be here in good time. You have to attend in your full school uniform, and you have to have the correct exam equipment, so a clear pencil case, clear water bottle, maths equipment, and remember to charge any of those scientific calculators to go in, so obviously they don't run out. Making sure that you've got things like water, breakfast, lunch, and snacks. That's really important to make sure that you give yourself that bit of a boost within the day, and that you're not just starving yourself throughout the day, because obviously that can affect concentration levels. Things like having your exam timetable. So when you get given your mock exam timetable, make sure that you've got that with you so that you know quite clearly where you're going to be. You will also be given a seating allocation of where you will need to sit. If you obviously suffer things like hay fever or asthma, you need to make sure that you've got that relevant medication with you should you need it. And where we've put suitable revision materials, you obviously can't take that into the exam, but you will need those for the day while you're in school and not an exam. So that's some of the basic rules. There are a few more rules, but we're going to drip feed these in over the next year. So they're the main ones. The last thing we need to go through is kind of what the arrangements are going to look like when you are in school. So just as a reminder, the mocks will start on the 22nd of June and they will finish on the Thursday, 30th of June. During that time, you will be expected to be in school. There will be no study leave given. There will be one slight amendment to your normal school timetable, and that will be that you will have last lunch instead of first lunch. So you will move to 4C rather than 4A, and that is due to the exam timetable that has to be created for you. And the main thing is obviously where you're going to be within lessons all day, what you will be expected to do within those lessons is you will be revising. If you haven't undertaken the exam for that subject at that point, you'll be revising for that subject area. So say, for example, PE is one of your last exams, you'll be revising for that PE exam in your PE lessons. Once that your test is done, your exam is done, you can then revise for your other subjects. So for example, if your English was your very first exam in the mock exam series, during your English lessons you will then be revising for your up and coming assessments. We hope that helps. If you do have any questions, obviously you can speak to any one of us, including staff as well. These, as we mentioned at the start, this PowerPoint, this explanation of how things are going is also going to be on the website. The link will be sent and has been sent to you via a letter as well. But as I say, come and ask us any questions and we will do our best to support you during this time. Thank you. Bye.